In 2008, it was announced that the Supersonics would be packing their bags in Seattle and moving to Oklahoma City and rebranding themselves as the Thunder. The NBA's presence in the Emerald City for 41 years came to a sudden halt, leaving fans heartbroken across the country. But I'm one to believe that not all hope is lost for basketball fans in Seattle. There are rumblings of the league expanding, and a comeback of the Supersonics is not that wild of an idea when you get into the details. In this video, I'm going to give you a rundown on how the Supersonics abandoned Seattle, why a revival is not really as far-fetched as you might think, and I'll finish it all off with a complete rebranding of the team's logos and uniforms. That means I have a lot planned for this video, so let's just go ahead and get right into it. The Seattle Supersonics were founded in 1967 and played in Key Arena for most of their time in Seattle. There were a couple brief stints in the Kingdome and Tacoma Dome, but that's besides the point. What's really interesting about the Supersonics story is they were never really all that bad. They qualified for the playoffs 22 times, claimed 6 division titles, and won a championship in 1979. It's not anything that's super amazing, but it's not half bad either. Their fan support reflected their performance too. They rarely overachieved, but they were never the worst attended team in the league either. Their attendance never seemed to fluctuate drastically until the news of them leaving started to become all too real. The true reason behind the move was a years-long struggle of keeping Key Arena up to NBA standards. The arena's capacity was a big factor in their below-average attendance because even when they had a packed house, they couldn't compete with other teams' crowds. And with less luxury seats and subpar amenities for fans, Key Arena just wasn't profitable enough. Howard Schultz, the team's owner at the time, led the charge in the early 2000s to either replace or renovate Key Arena, but couldn't get any movement going from the Washington legislature to help fund it, so he gave up and sold the team to Clay Bennett. Because they knew how much of a money pit sports venues can be, the city passed a bill around this time to forbid any publicly funded projects that weren't a proven profitable investment. Clay Bennett just kind of ignored that though and was like, bro, just trust me, man. We're gonna hit big, man. We just need this new arena, man. We just need $500 million. Just trust me, bro. It's gonna be awesome. Just trust. Obviously, they didn't give him what he wanted, so he took the next best option and moved the team to Oklahoma City. Kind of sad it had to end that way, but neither side would budge, so it was bound to happen eventually. So if the main cause for their exodus was the state of their arena, what's changed since then to justify a comeback? Oh, not that much. Just a little $1.2 billion renovation to make room for the Seattle Kraken?
Upgrades, people, upgrades!
I guess after going that long without a major team to fill the arena, the city had a change of heart and dropped a bag to bring it back to glory. Now called Climate Pledge Arena, it's not just good enough, it's a state-of-the-art facility. It holds more people than ever before at 18,300 seats, and dude, just look at it. This thing is sick. That's been getting a lot of people talking of a potential comeback, but there's still a lot of questions to be answered. Like, who would the team's owner be? Nowadays, it's really hard to find anyone that can afford to buy a whole major league team themselves, but Seattle, for whatever reason, just has a lot of ties to some of the richest people in the world. Jeff Bezos jumps out first since Amazon is the company behind the new arena's name, but I don't trust this man for 1 second. Just look at him. There's a bunch of other billionaires to pick from Washington State though, 13 to be exact. Whoever it may be, whether a Batman supervillain or a guy that can jump over chairs, Seattle is by no means a part of the country that's short on cash. Now you might be thinking, oh, that's cool and all, but are we just gonna move the Thunder back to Seattle? We're just going to move the Thunder back to Seattle now? We're just going to move the Thunder back to Seattle? I was going to get to that, all right? Let me cook. Of course, we're not going to take Oklahoma's only major league team from them. I think having the new Sonics as an expansion team would be a much better solution. I mean, it's worked before. The Browns moved to Baltimore and became the Ravens, and then a few years later, the league expanded to establish the new Browns, and they, okay, never mind about them. It's Ohio. Like, what do you expect? The Hornets in Charlotte, though, moved to New Orleans, and then Charlotte got the Bobcats in 2004, and they became the worst pro sports team of all time. Okay, listen, just trust me, man. This time it's going to be different, I swear. All right, enough yapping about the boring business side of things. Let's talk about the fun part, the logos and the uniforms. I ended up compiling all of their old logos and some other inspirations that I wanted into a mood board to kind of get me started on things. So let's just jump right into it. Graphic design Dalton here. I think that there's a lot of really cool aspects from several of their logos that I want to use, but I think also right off the bat, there's just a couple that are kind of lame. This one's just a basketball, so we're not going to do anything with that. And being 100% honest, their last logo that they had before they disbanded, kind of cringe. not really a whole lot going on with that. It's just an S with a basketball. There's nothing really unique about it, but the other logos are really, really cool, and I want to use at least one part of each one. I think that the original logo is really cool, how they have a little airplane just flying through. It's maybe a little bit simple, but it's cool. It gets the job done. I think that probably my favorite is this one. I don't know, this font is just really doing something for me. I just really like the shape of this S. I think it's super unique. I haven't ever seen anything like it. So I think that incorporating something like that would be cool. There's a lot of movement involved with it. This one, it's a little bit boring. I'm not gonna lie, it's a little bit boring. But they use the Seattle skyline, which I think is classic. You know, you can't go wrong with putting the Space Needle in it. And I think that they hit the nail on the hammer when they had their logo in the 90s. I think that's one of the coolest logos in NBA history, and honestly my favorite logo other than this one. I have two favorite logos, okay? I like both of these. I like that they use the O kind of to resemble a sonic boom wave. You can actually see a real one over here. I don't know the full science behind it. I probably should, but it has something to do with when an object travels faster than sound, it like breaks the plane of the atmosphere around it, and it creates this giant circular wave around it, and that's what this is. So I think that it's cool that they did that in a little subtle way. With the basketball, I like the kind of comic book font that they used. I'm not really sure where this red came from. It's not in any of their other logos. Same thing with the tan. It works in this logo. I don't think that we're gonna get that crazy with it, but overall, I really like this logo a lot, so I think that this is going to have a lot of inspiration. If I'm being 100% honest, I'm not the biggest fan of the gold. I think it looks a little bit too much like the Green Bay Packers. You might disagree with me, but that's just my personal opinion. So the tone of gold that I wanted to use was maybe just a little bit darker. It's not anything too crazy. It's just a little bit darker, and I don't want to use a lot of it because there is so much contrast between that and the green that you don't need a lot of that bright color for it to stand out. I think what I want to use maybe a little bit more of is some sort of cool gray. Seattle is known for having rainy weather and for being right on the coast where there's a lot of blue and a lot of gray. So I think that incorporating that would be cool. It's what all their other pro teams kind of use. I also want to do something with Nirvana. They were formed in the Seattle area. More on that later. I have some ideas circling around that, but that's pretty much all the inspiration that I have. This is a good starting point, and if I'm ever getting caught up in the weeds, I just need to come back to this and know what I'm pulling from. And these are some of the ideas that I sketched out. So going back to the original ideas, I thought, maybe I'll make something like this. So I tried to make like a little basketball with the Space Needle in the middle. It was all right, just seemed a little bit boring to me. I really like this one. It has aspects of this logo and this logo, but I have basically a plane pulling this S out to form that shape. And then it's flying over the eye, which is in the shape of the Space Needle. So I really like this one. This one is kind of the 90s logo reimagined. I wanted to make the basketball look like it was really going fast, so I stretched it out a little bit more than the original picture. In the original picture, it looks like it's not really going anywhere, but this one, it looks like it's going really, really fast. So I kind of like that idea of just taking the old logo and making it look a little bit better and just optimizing it, because I think that this original logo is just a really cool concept, but it can use a little bit of improving. This one I thought was kind of cool, really thinking about Supersonics in a literal term and giving him like a jet pilot's helmet, but it's like the Nirvana logo. So he's got, the tongue out and the big smile. And then in the visor, you can actually see the skyline of Seattle. I think the ones that I really want to expand on are this one, and this one. I think that this will be kind of like the new logo, and then this will be an alternate logo, and then this will be like a tertiary logo. Designing logos, you probably want to use Illustrator, which I'm not very good at, but we're going to give it a try. Also, I have little to no formal training of Illustrator. I did it like a very, very tiny amount in college, and that was about it. I think I think we might have something here. Like every good graphic designer, I am just staring at this and looking at every single part of it that I hate, but I think that I'm just being a little bit too critical of myself. I'm not very good with Illustrator, so I think that this is probably the best that we're gonna see out of me. At the very least, we get a good idea of what this logo design might look like. And so hopefully you think that turned out well too, because I think it's pretty good. I'm gonna just be real with you. I think it kind of goes hard. I think I've had enough Illustrator for today. I am ready to go to bed. So we're gonna work on the next 2 logos tomorrow. Alright, I'm just gonna get right into this logo. I already edited what I did yesterday, and bro, I was yapping. So I'm just gonna shut up and start grinding on this. After a full day of working on this, I think it's good. I changed the colors a little bit. I added some blue for whatever reason, but I think the blue actually looks good. That's what we have for now. This is our retro logo reimagined, and at the very least it gives me confidence that I know how to use Illustrator. Is it a good logo? You can decide. We're gonna have to do the 3rd logo on day number 3, and then we'll finally be able to make the uniforms. Time for the Nirvana logo. This one hopefully shouldn't take a super whole long time, but it's got some kind of weird shapes within it, so we'll see if it actually turns out the way I want it to, or if it'll take me a full day like it did the last one. Okay, that actually took a lot less time than I thought it would, and I think it turned out pretty good. I was able to do that one in less than 45 minutes, so I guess I'm just becoming an absolute Adobe Illustrator weapon. So I'm gonna go ahead and save this, and then we can move on to looking at the uniforms after I put everything together. So I just finished up making all of the uniforms. There are 4 of them total. That's how many the NBA allows teams to have. So you have, obviously your home uniforms, your away uniforms, your city edition uniforms, and then their statement uniforms, which are kind of another alternate. I think the biggest thing that you need to take away when you're designing uniforms is to not try and do too much, because people like things to be simple and clean and nothing too crazy. I'm pretty sure that every NBA team has a sponsor on the jersey. Typically it's going to be a local brand, and like I was saying, Seattle has so much business there. You have Starbucks, you have Amazon, you have Microsoft. But what's even better than any of those big corporations is Costco. So I used the Kirkland signature logo, and honestly, I think it goes pretty hard. I think that it's like the perfect fit for a team like this. You don't want to take things too serious. So if you think that this is too much and too corny, like, get off my back. Literally, Mr. Beast is on a basketball team's jerseys. No one cares. It's not that deep. So with the home uniforms, these were probably the easiest ones to make. Obviously, white background, just simple green and gold. You don't need a lot of gold, like I was saying, but pretty much it's just green and just gold. The away uniforms, I probably got a little bit more creative with. I added a little bit of a drop shadow on the logo and the numbers, and incorporated a little bit more gray than the gold, like I was talking about. But again, for the most part, it was just green and gold. I know that I said that I wanted to incorporate a lot of gray, but once I started laying it out, it just made more sense to keep the green and gold as the main 2 colors, and then have a little bit of gray as an accent. So for the statement uniform, I wanted to give it kind of a retro look like I was talking about, but I also wanted to incorporate those colors that I wasn't able to use on their other 2 uniforms. So I actually made the whole entire uniform that blue that I was talking about before. I altered it a little bit so that's a little bit more gray, so that looks kind of like a rainy sky, but I really just wanted to kind of experiment and see how it turned out, and I think it turned out pretty good. So I used that retro logo as the main logo for this uniform, and I added a bit more gray to the stripes on the pants and on the jersey. But I really liked how this one turned out. And I think it's a little bit risky when you introduce new colors to an old team, but I think it turned out pretty good. I think I did a good job with what I wanted. And then for the City Edition uniforms, I went with that Nirvana logo and just made it a Nirvana themed jersey. Nirvana is known for kind of being really bare bones, simple music. It's just a guitar, a bass, and drums, and they just play it loud and they just play it hard. And that's kind of what their branding was like too. They use a really simple font and there's not a whole lot of iconography. So I just wrote Seattle and then the number and then put the logo down here on the shorts. There wasn't really a good spot to put it on the jersey itself. I would have liked to put it on the jersey, but it just didn't look right anywhere to me. So we're keeping it just on the shorts. And then just for funsies, I wanted to see what the logos and everything would look like on the court in the arena. So I went ahead and made this little mock-up that shows what it actually looks like. And I'm not sure if you can see from this picture, but I really wanted to pick another company that's known for being in Seattle, that just has a really good reputation and everyone loves and everyone in the community can support, and they have ethical practices and they're not problematic at all. So I went with Boeing, the pride and joy of Seattle. There's nothing that they've ever done wrong. So there we have it, the brand new Seattle Sonics. With a lot of my videos, I gotta be honest, they're just hypotheticals that I know deep down are a long shot at best, but with this one, I think there's actually a serious possibility that this could happen in the not so distant future. And it was a lot of fun to take a deep dive into what it might actually look like. Let me know in the comments if there are any other teams that you thought of that you might want to see me do a rebranding of. I actually really like the process of making all of it. Go ahead and subscribe now if you haven't already. I have some really big plans for the next few months, and I'd love to have y'all with me along the way on this big journey. Thanks for watching, and stay safe out there.